everybody and welcome back. As always, my name is Addie and I am usually the host of the Knits by AJ Crafting podcast, but today I thought I'd come and sit down and chat to you all about my spring making plans. So I thought I would start by just doing a little bit of a recap of my autumn making plans as well, to sort of like collate those two things together, because I didn't really feel like I had enough in my autumn making plans to, like reviewing my autumn making plans, to turn it into 2 videos. So I thought I would just put it in this one and kind of round out the last lot of plans and make some new ones for the new season coming. I'm also filming this sort of directly after filming my last podcast episode, which will have just gone up a couple of days ago, because I really want to get this video out, because as you will have seen in that video, I have already started to make some of the things on this list, and I wanted to get this out as quickly as I could so that I could chat about my plans before you start seeing them crop up in the podcast episodes. So yes, without further waffle, let's get into some reviews and some new plans. So autumn kind of got a little bit derailed in my planning. So I think what I did was I took on more projects than I could realistically get done in that period of time. For us as a family, it was quite a kind of an adjustment period, because my daughter had just started school, so that was kind of a new thing for us, getting into a new routine, getting her settled and everything, which meant that I was spending more time doing that than I was making, which is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get her settled, and she has settled in really well to school, which is absolutely amazing. I'm so proud of her. But yes, I didn't actually manage to get as much done as I thought I would. And then we got to winter and I didn't actually make a sort of dedicated winter making plans video, because I just didn't see the point, because it was just going to be continuing to get through the project list that I had made in the autumn, because I did desperately want to get all of those projects done. They were things I felt really passionate about making, and I had all the yarns and fabrics and things for them. So yeah, I didn't make a winter making plans video because of that. Oh, here comes the dog. And so I just continued to make through my autumn list, and I actually did manage to get almost everything done on that list, but it took me 2 seasons to get to that point. Okay, the dog has come in, caused chaos, and now left, so hopefully he goes and settles down somewhere. So on my list for autumn, I decided I wanted to make the Colette Pullover by Sari Nordlund, the Quilted Sweater by Midori Hirose, a textured vest, a Vivienne Beanie also by Sari Nordlund, a modified colour tip tee by Emily Curtis, a pair of fingerless gloves, a Halloween orange cardigan for my daughter, an Effervescent mini by Aimee Sher for my daughter, a quilted jacket for my husband, and also a Halloween dress for my daughter as well. And I got through most of that, I think. So the Colette Pullover did not get finished. It still sat in a bag at the state that it was when I last showed it, with like the body joined in the round, the neckband on, and about this much for sleeve. And I just don't have the motivation to get working on that, to be perfectly honest. And I kind of swapped it out in my like autumn making for the Salty Days sweater by Veronika Lindberg or Quilted Witches Hat, and actually that has found that has filled a big hole in my wardrobe for the kind of like textured eyelet sort of styled knit that I was looking for. And I think the colour of that has made it much more wearable than the like yellow yarn that I had chosen for my Colette Pullover. So I kind of take it as a, yes, I did kind of complete the like style of project I was looking for in that kind of pattern, but I didn't actually complete the Colette Pullover. So it was kind of like a win and fail. Also with the Klee sweater, I didn't actually end up making that in the end, because I got accepted for the test knit of the West Sands Pullover by Journey Through Yarn, and that is also a colourwork sweater, but it's a raglan instead of a round yoke, and it obviously had the stripes on the body and the sleeves instead of just on the yoke. But I did also complete another colourwork yoke sweater for myself. I did the Santa Baby sweater by Rimmen, and I did that as my Christmas jumper, and I also made one to match my, made one that was matching for my husband, and my daughter had one that I'd made a couple of years ago that also matched those. So I did technically do a round yoked colourwork sweater, and I also did a raglan colourwork sweater with colourwork on the body. So I kind of fulfilled the brief of kind of what I was looking for, but I didn't do the pattern that I had initially said I was going to. So also like a win/fail on that one as well. As for the textured vest, I did do one of the patterns that I thought I was going to for my textured vest. I'm actually wearing, bear with. Okay, the dog desperately needed a wee, and I went and made a hot pot of coffee. So, you know, such is life. What was I saying? Oh yes, textured vest. So I did actually manage to make the textured vest, and I managed to make one off of my plans, and I made the Irene vest by Journey Through Yarn. I finished it up very recently, like in the past couple of weeks. So that was another one that ran over into my winter knitting. But actually I'm really glad that I managed to get this one done sort of very recently, because I think it's going to be a really good layer for spring. So yes, glad I got that done, but you know, took a lot longer than I expected to get to it. Next up was the Vivienne beanie. I did make that. I used Knitting for Olive, Soft Silk Mohair, and merino in the colour Red Currant. So yeah, I managed to get that one ticked off the list. Also, I managed to finish up both the modified colour tip tee and the fingerless gloves for my husband. And the modified colour tip tee ended up being his Christmas present. So I worked on that throughout December and did manage to tick that one off the list. But like I say, took a lot longer than I expected to manage to actually get to it. And the fingerless gloves, they worked out so well. I ended up using the Claras Playtime mittens pattern from Aimee Sher, but I modified the fingerless mitts into fingerless gloves. I just turned the remaining stitches into fingers instead of knitting them as just ribbing, and yeah, they have worked out really, really well. My husband wears them all the time, so they were a great success. The Halloween orange cardigan, I ended up using the Rosa Little, so I didn't actually use any of the patterns that I talked about in my plans video, but I did actually manage to make that garment, so I kind of will tick that one off the list because I was umming and ahhing over what pattern I wanted to use. The Effervescent mini, I also finished that up really recently, but actually again I'm glad I knit that much later than I initially intended to, because I ended up gifting that to my daughter for Valentine's Day, and actually the colours that I used, the hot pink, worked out so well, and she absolutely loves that, and I think it's going to be a really good item in her wardrobe to carry her through spring, especially as a layering piece as the weather starts to warm up. So I'd managed to get it done, but not in autumn. And lastly, the quilted jacket for my husband, I did not manage to get around to making that. It will have to be something that I put off for a later date. And the Halloween dress for my daughter, I did manage to finish that up. I used the Indigo Mini pattern from Tilly and the Buttons, and it was such a great success. I even managed to make her a matching quilted hat, and oh, she absolutely loved it. She was so thrilled with her Halloween costume last year, and I think she's probably going to end up wearing it this year as well, so I feel like it's gotten a really good sort of amount of use out of it. I do just need to fix the skirt, because unfortunately she was going up the stairs and she trod on her skirt and the seam popped between the bodice and the skirt, so I just need to fix that. But yeah, I think that was a resounding success. She absolutely loved it, and to be honest, I loved it as well. It was a great little dress to sew up, and despite how much faffing I had to do to get the sleeves on it, I absolutely loved making it, and I love how happy she is with it as well. So I did manage to get most of the things done off of my list, be that by turning them into another pattern that is very similar to what I was going to knit, or actually knitting the thing that I said I was going to knit. So I did kind of manage to get most things done, but not necessarily in the time frame or the way that I initially thought I was going to. So I do think it was somewhat of a success. But you know, I just took on more projects than I thought I could realistically get done, and those are kind of things that I have taken forward into starting to make my spring making plans. I definitely took on too many knit projects, and realistically I need to balance that out a little bit better between my knitting projects and my sewing projects, which I've tried to do this season. But also it was just a really busy time. The lead up to Christmas really kind of like took me by surprise. I put in a lot of other projects that I didn't necessarily think I was going to make. Like I made the Amelia tee, I made loads of socks, I made obviously that hat for my daughter, I made various other things for myself. I knit 2 Christmas jumpers, which I didn't initially plan on doing. And then obviously there was all the Advent stuff as well, which kind of I didn't really account for when I was making my plans. So yeah, I've kind of taken things from my autumn making plans and applied them to sort of like making my list for spring. Having said that, my spring making plans is quite a long list. So I don't necessarily expect to get through all of these, but I would like to get through most of them. So now that we've dealt with autumn, let's get into spring making plans. Not that it really feels like spring at the moment, because it is the wettest day. It's so rainy today, but spring feels like it's on the way. We've had a couple of days of nice warm weather. I got out with my daughter yesterday and planted some of our new spring, what am I trying to say? We got out yesterday and we planted a load of seeds for our veg patch to kind of keep inside until they have grown strong enough to go outside. And so it really feels like we're getting into spring now. I've got a real kick to start doing our garden again, and yeah, I just want to get going on spring now. I feel like we've had enough winter. It's been cold, it's been dreary, and I want some sunshine. So my plan for spring is to kind of like revamp my wardrobe a little bit. I am not the biggest fan of shopping for myself, and so I just don't tend to do it very often. I like buy the odd thing here if I need to replace something, but I don't tend to do a lot of shopping for myself. And mainly that's because I just don't like having to go and like try a load of things on, and also because I don't always have a huge amount of time to do it. And I don't like buying online and then having to go through the whole process of sending things back. So I thought I'm just going to try and make as much as I physically can. And then I can make things that actually fit me and I really like, in fabrics that I enjoy and everything like that. So I have got knitting and sewing plans. I will start off with my knitting plans. And I have spent the past couple of weeks sort of curating a list and also buying yarn for these plans, so I've got everything ready to go. I've also done a couple of swatches as well, which I have somewhere around here, ready to sort of like cast on as soon as I have like a free spot in my like whip pile to be able to start making some of these things. But actually, before we get into the projects that I have bought yarn for, I will start off with the one that I have already cast on, because you would have seen that in my previous knitting podcast that went out last week, the previous video before this one. And that is the Astrid Sweater by Pernille Larsen of Knitting for Olive. And I am going to be using, well, I already am using, let's be honest, the Noro Silk Garden Solo in the colour 33, which is this absolutely stunning green. And my plan for this was that I wanted a simple sweater that was going to let this yarn shine, but with a little bit of a twist. I wanted something that was going to be easy to throw on. I wanted something that was going to be a kind of simple layer that I can wear on its own when it warms up a bit, but also easy to like chuck under a jacket and everything, and that was going to go with a fair few things in my wardrobe. And I thought that the Astrid Sweater was going to be a like perfect mix between simple stockinette but with an interesting twist with the curved rib on the hem. And yeah, I just thought it was a really lovely design. I was kind of toying between this one and another design, but I think actually I might knit that one in the autumn instead, if I still like it enough to want to cast it on. But yeah, I thought that this was going to be a fun pattern to start with, and like I said in my previous knitting podcast, I really want to get back into reading, and so I thought having a nice stockinette sweater to start off with would be a good way to do that. So the gauge fit the yarn that I already had. I picked up that yarn at the Knitting and Stitching show last October, and so it was kind of like a match made in heaven between the yarn and the pattern. I've knit up a pattern by Pernille Larsen before, and although I would say that her patterns are fairly concise, like there's not a huge amount of information, it basically gives you the instructions and not a lot of sort of fluff around the edges, which I quite like, to be honest, especially for something sort of as kind of straightforward as a stockinette sweater. But it kind of just gives you enough that you know what you're doing without any extra fluff. But I would say that it doesn't really like hold your hand like a beginner's pattern. So yes, I really want to get going with this. It is a bottom up construction, which I know is not to everybody's taste, but I quite like a bottom up construction, to be honest. I think I've kind of found the sweet spot in the lengths for the body and the like armhole depth and everything through sort of trying out a couple of different bottom up sweaters last year. And so yeah, I think it's going to be a really good addition to my wardrobe, especially for times when it's like a bit chilly in the mornings and in the evenings, but you don't necessarily need a jumper throughout the day. So it's just nice to have something simple to chuck on. And as it's going to be green, I have a lot of things that green will go with in my wardrobe, and also I have a lot of things that I'm planning to make that this green will go with, and it's just a bit brighter than the other greens that I have in my wardrobe, so I felt like it was a little bit more kind of spring summer than like a lot of the forest greens that I've worked up before in the last couple of months. I don't really have that many like just plain stockinette sweaters in my wardrobe. I usually have quite a lot of like textured or colourwork sweaters, and so I'm really looking forward to being able to add one to my kind of sweater collection, and just have something that's a little bit easier to just chuck on in the spring and summer months coming. So yes, that is the Astrid sweater. That's the first thing on my list. So I'll kind of stick with sweaters and then we'll go into other knit garments, and then we will obviously go into the sewing as well. So now that we've got that one out of the way, we are going to move into this massive box of yarn that I've kind of been curating from a couple of orders over the past couple of weeks. So you see I've got a bit of a colour palette going on for my spring knitting. And so some of these I already have the patterns for. Some of them I still need to purchase the patterns for, and some of them I have swatched for, and some of them I haven't just quite yet. So I'll go with what I plan to cast on next after my Astrid sweater. And this one, I actually did a poll on both my Instagram and my YouTube to kind of get your guys' opinion, because I was sort of flip-flapping between two different patterns. One of which was the Flower Power sweater, and the other one was the Wave sweater by Spectacle Strick. And I sort of left those going for a little while and then sort of took the results from both of them and added them together, and the Wave sweater won out. And actually I think I prefer the Wave sweater for spring, and I do still intend to make the Flower Power sweater, but I think I'm going to make that in autumn. I already have some yarn hanging about in my stash for that, so yeah, I have chosen to do the Wave sweater for spring, and I have already swatched. So the Wave sweater is an all over colourwork raglan sweater, and it's knit up at an Aran weight. And it doesn't have the biggest size range, but I will be knitting the smallest size, and that's still going to give me around about like 30 centimetres, 25 to 30 centimetres of positive ease. So it's going to be a nice kind of like big warm layer, especially since it's all over colourwork, so it's going to be like double layer. And so I think it's going to be really effective against the like spring winds that we get, but still nice and bright and colourful, and just a really fun sort of fresh sweater to add into my little collection that I've got going. So I have chosen and purchased some yarn, and I am going to be using Filcolana Peruvian Highland Wool, which is one of my absolute favourite yarns. My like self-drafted cable jumper that I knit for myself, the like marzipan coloured one, that's really oversized, that is knit up in Filcolana Peruvian Highland Wool, and I absolutely love it. I wear that all the time. It's so next to skin soft, and it knits up really nicely, and I think it's going to be really good for colourwork as well. So I've chosen to do my main colour as this pink, which is Ballerina, and my contrast colour is going to be this green, which is Time, and I have swatched as well. And so this is my swatch, and I absolutely love this. I think that these two colours work really, really well together. I just love a bit of green and pink, and I cannot wait to get this cast on. But you may notice that this swatch is flat and this sweater is obviously knit in the round. And so I have decided that I'm going to modify mine to be a drop shoulder. I already have a colourwork raglan sweater in my wardrobe, in my West Sand sweater that I knit up over the autumn. And although I like it, to be honest, I really love that sweater, I do. But raglans are not my favourite fit on me. I don't really have much shoulder, and so I feel like they just really drag down sometimes. And this yarn is not the sort of like, it hasn't got the same properties as the yarn that I used for my West Sands, which was BC Garn Loch Lomond, which is a woolen spun yarn, so it's really light and airy, whereas this is a worsted spun yarn, and to be honest, it's quite heavy. I think it's just really going to drag down, and then it creates a really like stretched out neckline, which I just don't really like very much. So I much prefer a drop shoulder because they just don't pull in the same way, and so I'm going to modify my wave sweater to be a drop shoulder. So I have a fair bit of maths to do, which I've already started to kind of make my way through to convert this, but I think it should be fairly easy. Now, to kind of stop myself from having to knit too much colourwork flat, and I didn't really want to use this as my first like steeking project. I would rather do something that has a little bit more information on steeking in the pattern, just to kind of like hold my hand a little bit more. I am going to be using a mixture of stranded colourwork and intarsia to create the waves on my sweater, and I think, judging by my swatch, I think it's going to work out quite well. And actually the floats on this are really satisfying. I just think that it's going to be a little bit of a sort of less stressful way of creating the colourwork on this sweater, and it's only going to be for like a little bit at the top and at the back, sorry, at the top of the front and back of the sweater, because I don't think that I'm going to have the colourwork going too far up the shoulders. I think I'm going to keep the top of the first wave at the bottom of the front neck. So actually, in reality, it's not really that much before you join for the underarms. So yeah, that is my plan for my wave sweater, and I'm really excited to get this cast on. I think I'm going to cast this on fairly soon, to be honest. Maybe once I've cast off a pair of socks. So that is plan number 2. So the next thing on my list is the Gr8 Gingham by Jessie May Designs. This is a sport weight all over colourwork bottom up sweater in this amazing gingham print. Now, I am also on a bit of like a gingham, I'm having a bit of a gingham moment, really. I just absolutely love gingham. I've been like this for a little while, to be honest. I just absolutely love gingham. I've been eyeing up lots of gingham bits for the house. I have been sort of eyeing up a lot of gingham dresses and everything. I've made a lot of things for my daughter in gingham. But yeah, I think I've always like chickened out of things for myself, and I've had this pattern in my kind of like wish list for such a long time, and I saw it pop up in Jessie's birthday sale, so I got 42% off of it, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna get it and I'm just gonna knit it. And I was fully inspired by these photos in the pattern page for the red and pink gingham, and so I picked up this red and this pink to make this sweater. So this is the Yarbo to Tia Ul. I'm probably butchering that, but I'm guessing it stands for like a 2-ply wool. And this is a sport weight 100% wool, and you get 300 meters per 100 grams. It does say it somewhere. Yeah, so you get 300 meters per 100 grams, and so this is colour 74125, and this is colour 74123. And I have never used this yarn before, but I was looking through sport weight yarns, and to be honest, this one had the colours that I was looking for, and it was a 100% non-superwash wool, which is also something that I was looking for in this project, because I just feel like it kind of melds together a little bit better in colourwork when I use a non-superwash wool, and also not having to sew in so many ends. So yes, I'm going to be using these. Now, when I posted on my Instagram that I had picked up this pattern, quite a few people messaged me to let me know that there was an issue with the neckline in this pattern, or that lots of people had kind of come across fit issues with the neckline because there's no short rows. And I do plan to kind of try and retrofit short rows into my version. And I think that the easiest way for me to do that is by knitting the short rows in one colour and then duplicate stitching the colour work into them once I've already knit them, or by adding short rows into the ribbing and not doing a folded collar and just doing like a single ribbed collar. I think that might be kind of the best option, because it is bottom up, so it's going to be like one of the last things that I knit. But I'm gonna sort of make a decision on how I'm gonna do that once I get to that point, and I'm just gonna focus on making sure that I can get the rest of the sweater knit first. So I am gonna do a cropped version, sort of to the same length kind of as this vest, because I think that's gonna fit best into my wardrobe, and then when it's sort of not as warm I can still wear it with my shorts, which come to the same point as my jeans, and also trousers and my jeans, and also some dresses as well. I think it would work well over some of the more plain fabric dresses that I've got, as a little bit more of like a fun, colourful layer. So that is my plan for these. Next up, and the last of my sweater plans for spring, is something that I chose my pattern and then I've seen versions of these pop up all over the place in shops, like when I've been out and about, and I wanted to knit a jumper with a like placket and collar. I'm not a massive fan of v-necks, but I thought that having like a placket and a collar, so that it has like a v-neck opening, but having a little bit more sort of coverage there and a little bit more interest than just a v-neck was gonna sort of ease me into the idea of a v-neck. And so I was umming and ahhing over the Elizabeth blouse by Petite Knit, but I didn't want a raglan, and I also wanted something that was going to be a little bit lighter than a DK weight. And then I found the Charlie Pullover by Veronika Knit, and I thought, actually, you know what, that's perfect. It's knit up at a sport weight, so it's just that ever so slightly less heavy than a DK weight, and it's a drop shoulder, so it wasn't going to give me the fit issues that I get with a raglan, which I thought, if I have a raglan and I have a collar, it's going to really like pull out this way, whereas drop shoulders don't tend to do that so much on me, so I feel like it's going to have a little bit more structure there. And yeah, I'm really looking for, and because it's a drop shoulder, it means that it's not just going to come out straight from the neckline. You're going to have to pick up stitches, and it's going to give that little bit more structure than obviously it just pulling straight down with the raglan weight on the neckline. So yeah, I've decided I'm going to do the Charlie Pullover, and I found another sport weight wool whilst I was checking out some sport weight yarns on Linda Hobby, who I do tend to buy yarn from quite often. They do a lot of brands that I like, and their pricing is reasonably kind of budget friendly. And so yes, I picked up the BC Garn Simila Melange, which is a 100% non-superwash wool, and like I say, it is a sport weight. So I've decided to do my main colour as colour 21, and my contrast colour for my stripes as colour 17, and I'm just going to hold these single as a sport weight because the pattern does suggest that you use either a sport weight or a fingering and a mohair, and I thought if I add in a mohair it's going to be too hot and it's not going to fit the kind of like use case that I have for this, because I think that this is going to be one of the later things that I cast on, because I think it's going to be just that little bit nicer for when it does warm up. It's going to be a bit thinner than a lot of the other sweaters that I have to cast on over the spring, and I think it's going to take me into summer a bit better than any of the thicker things that I've got to cast on as well. So yeah, these are going to be a little bit later on in the season, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I don't have anything like this in my wardrobe, and I think it's going to be a really interesting piece to style. I think it's going to be nice to put underneath my dungarees, but also just as a casual layer with like some soft trousers or my jeans. And yeah, it just looks really interesting. And I really liked with this one, so a lot of the other like collared sweaters that I saw, they just have like the placket and then the collar kind of comes out and there's a gap between them, like they don't cross over at the placket. Whereas this one, they do cross over, so it just gives you that little bit more coverage, so it's not going to sort of like fall open with the weight of the wool. And so that was why I chose to do this pattern, because I thought it was just going to hold itself a little bit better than, say, like the Elizabeth blouse by Petite Knit. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to getting this cast on. I really like the long ribbing on the cuffs as well. I think it looks really elegant, and I think it's just going to be like a really nice elevated basic in my wardrobe, something that's really easy to throw on, and also is going to be a really nice kind of like warm layer for when it's a little bit chillier. So those are all of the sweater plans that I have for spring. I do have a couple of other knitting plans. So I would like to start making myself a little collection of long sleeved tops. And this will be a repeat knit, like a repeat pattern for me. I intend to knit the Lily top by Iris of Iris Makes. I made one of these last year in a cotton and wool mix. I made a short sleeved version in Hirose Lana Cotton 212, and I wear that all of the time. So essentially it's just a set-in sleeve t-shirt pattern with these beautiful rolled edges. It's designed to have little to no ease across the upper bust and then some ease over the bust. It's just been designed with like fit as like the focal point, and it just fits me so well. I absolutely love it. I wear it all the time. I wear it underneath my jumpers, I wear it on its own, and I really want a long sleeved version. So I've decided that I am going to use some yarn that I frogged from a previous project, and so this is Sunday by Sandnes Garn, and I don't actually know what this colourway is called because it's not on their like colour chart anymore, but it's like this sort of dusty like duck egg blue, and I previously used this to knit up an Oslo hat for my husband. Now the Oslo hat recommends to use Sunday held double, and so it eats yarn, and just from one Oslo hat and the leftovers that I had, because it gets you to buy, I think it's 150 grams. I have enough yarn from this Oslo hat to make a long sleeve version of the Lily top. So I will have to alter the pattern ever so slightly to make it long sleeve, but I don't really feel like that's going to be too difficult. It's essentially just lengthen the sleeve and maybe add in a couple of decreases. But I think this is going to be a real staple in my wardrobe. Especially kind of like as we move towards the warmer months of spring and where it's just that little bit too chilly to just wear a t-shirt and you want just a little bit more of a layer. I think that this is going to be absolutely perfect, and it's also just going to be a great layering piece to have in my wardrobe. I found myself wanting, with a lot of my knitted t-shirts, I found myself sort of wanting them to have long sleeves so I can wear them more, especially in like the transitional periods of the year. And so I'm going to start off my collection by adding in a new Lily top, because I really do feel like this is like my perfect basic tee, and yeah, I just really want to knit another one. So this is also going into my spring plans. So I do have one more thing in my spring knitting plans, but this is kind of more of like a stretch goal. I'm not 100% sure if I'm actually going to get to it, and so I don't actually have yarns for it yet. But I would like to knit up a version of the My Honey vest by Wool & Beyond. Now I've had this pattern in my library for such a long time, but I've just never really had the bravery to actually knit it because it's quite a lot of honeycomb brioche. And I have done honeycomb brioche before. I've knit up a honey bucket bag by Petite Knit last year, and that was kind of like my prep for getting ready to start this project. I also have always been a bit confused about what yarns I want to use. I know that I want to use the Plötulopi that is recommended in the pattern, but I don't really know what I want to use for the other two yarns. And I especially want to kind of try and make sure that those yarns really go together really well, because you do have this big sort of double knit panel at the back, and then you obviously have the double knitting for the plackets and also for the ties, and the other yarn goes underneath the, so you do two colour honeycomb brioche, so you will be able to see it through the Plötulopi, through like underneath the Plötulopi for the honeycomb brioche. So I really want them to go well together because they are essentially going to be touching. And so I am going to be going to East Anglia Yarn Festival in March, and I thought, actually, you know what, if I'm going to be choosing yarns to make this project, then I really want to choose them in person, and I think that's going to be the perfect place to do it, because then I can really hold the yarns up against each other and I can sort of decide what I want to do sort of colour wise and make sure that they really go well together. And so I think I'm going to be looking to source yarn from that yarn festival for this project, and then I'll probably pick up the Platelope later on once I am ready to get going and cast on. So this is probably going to be one that if I don't get to in spring, it will be pushed into summer, because I think it is going to be a really versatile piece, but it's not necessarily like the highest priority for spring. I think it will be really nice in the summer, especially when it's a bit cooler, because in the UK we don't always get the like most sort of warm summers. Like we have some periods of really hot weather and then it does cool down. So I think having like a nice sort of sleeveless layer is going to be a good option, especially when we get out early in the morning to do the school run or to walk the dog or something. It'll be nice to have something easy to just chuck on over the top of whatever I'm wearing as a little bit of a warmth layer. But yes, I really do want to get this pattern cast on, because like I say, it's been sat in my pattern library for a really long time, but it is my stretch goal for spring. So those are all of the knitting plans that I have for spring, and I do also have a fair few sewing plans. Like I say, I don't know if I'm definitely going to get through all of these, but these are all of the things that I have fabric for ready and I have the patterns for ready, and I really do want to get going on for spring. But if I have to push them into summer, then I'm not all that fussed. I will definitely get to them at some point. But these are all the things that I would like to make. So the first thing on my sewing plans for spring is the side tie top by Steph from Time. I really love this pattern. I love that it's kind of like a fresh take on the tie front tops that I've been seeing absolutely everywhere for the past couple of years. And it's just a little bit more coverage, but still with those like open panels at the side. And this top comes with two views. So you get the sort of standard non-quilted version, and then there is also a quilted version. There's instructions for both in the pattern, and I would like to make myself a quilted version. I think this is going to be a really fun piece to have in my wardrobe. I think it's going to be great for layering, which is something that I definitely like to do a lot of in spring because it's not always all that warm. And yeah, I think it's going to be great as a standalone top as well when the weather warms up. So I am going to be using this beautiful mauve gingham that I picked up from Beehive Fabrics. I did quite a big sort of shop with them whilst they were having their sale, so quite a lot of the fabrics that I will be showing are from them, and I'll have them linked down below. But they are a lovely like independent fabric shop, and yeah, they have a lovely selection. But yes, I'm going to be using this mauve cotton to make mine, and then I think I'm going to go for either this fabric as the bias binding and make my own, or I might deviate and buy some white bias binding to go with it for the ties and the edging. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun little addition. I think it's a good colour to kind of take through the whole year. It's not necessarily like very spring summer, but it's still kind of like bright enough that it's going to add a real splash of colour to like just a jeans and t-shirt outfit. And I think it's going to be really nice underneath cardigans and things as well. I love that it's got a bit of a high neck. I don't necessarily like showing off a lot of my chest, and so I really do appreciate a high necked garment. So yeah, I really want to make one of these up in this fabric as well for this season. So next up I will go into my trouser makes that I would like to get going on this season. I hate buying trousers. I hate buying jeans. I have kind of found a pair of jeans that I love the fit of, and I just tend to buy the same style over and over again. But I have quite short legs, and so I love the ribcage jeans from Levi's. But to be able to get a length that is full length on me and isn't like dragging along the floor or needing altering, I have to buy the cropped version in the shortest length to get a pair of jeans that are like standard length on me. I don't know who they make these jeans for. Like, I don't feel like my legs are massively out of proportion. I'm just short. And so I really want to try my hand at making my own jeans this year. And so I've done a lot of research and I've looked at a lot of different patterns, and I think the ones that are going to match my kind of preferred fit of jean the best are the Helene Jeans by Anna Allen Clothing. And so I'm going to really give these a go. They are the project that I sort of practiced for a lot in the dungarees that I made for my daughter recently, with all of the top stitching and the techniques. And I'm really excited to really give these a go and see if I can make my own like perfect fit jeans, because that would just save me so much time in searching for things and also give me like the joy of making them. So I picked up some denim. I'm obviously going to do a 12 first to check the fit and everything, because I have seen that there can be some issues in the rise in this pattern and like just getting it to fit your body how you want it to. But yeah, so I'm going to do a 12, but I have also picked out my like final fabric, and it is this beautiful floral denim that I picked up from Fabric Godmother, and I just cannot wait to have jeans in this fabric. I have never been confident enough to purchase a pair of white jeans, but I've always loved the look of them. But I thought, actually, you know what I will do before I kind of dive into white jeans is I will make myself a patterned pair with a white base. So yeah, I thought that this floral denim was going to be a really nice stepping stone before I kind of really go into making myself a pair of white jeans. I just feel like they're going to make my bum look massive, but surely it's not going to be that different to blue jeans. I don't know. I think it's all a psychological thing of, I just feel like my bum's going to look enormous in white jeans. But either way, I'm going to start with this floral fabric for my jeans. And I think that they're going to be absolutely stunning. I think they're going to be a great addition for spring, but also into summer. And I think because they've got like these cute little tomatoes and things on, they should still be good for autumn as well. And to be honest, I will wear them all the time because this fabric is amazing and I love it. So yes, that's going to be a real like technical sew for me, and not something that I've really done a lot of in the past, but I am so excited for it, and I just want to be able to make myself trousers that fit. So yes, really want to make myself a pair of Helene jeans, and hopefully it goes well. So yes, this is quite high up on my priority of things to start getting going with soon. But yes. So that does lead me quite well into my next plan, which is also along the trousers theme. So I would also like to make myself a pair of like wide leg linen trousers. I am really coming out of like the skinny jeans sort of era that we were in. I don't actually wear my skinny jeans anymore. I haven't for like, I'd say a good year and a half now. But I haven't quite kind of delved into the full like wide leg area because I'm quite short. I feel like they're just gonna make me look shorter. But I do really want a nice pair of lightweight trousers for spring and summer because it's not always warm enough to wear shorts, and I do love my jeans and I miss being able to wear them when it is too hot for them, so I would like something that's got a little bit more coverage than shorts, but isn't jeans. So I just want to make myself a pair of wide leg trousers essentially. And so I think I'm going to make the Lane pants by Sydney Graham, but I saw that she had altered her own pattern to add a ruffle to the bottom of them, and I think that is such a fun little addition, and it's something that I really want to add into my wardrobe. So when I was at the Knitting and Stitching show back in October last year, I picked up this linen gingham in this beautiful like sage green, and I think I'm going to use this to make a pair of Lane pants with the ruffle around the bottom, and I'm going to make them ever so slightly cropped so they're still really summery, but I think these are going to be an absolutely beautiful like light layer to have in my wardrobe. And I think that this sage gingham is going to go really well with a lot of the knitting plans that I've got planned for when it's not quite warm enough to not wear an extra layer on the top half. And I think these are going to be a really, really useful thing to have in my wardrobe. Like last year I was desperately wanting a pair of linen trousers and just couldn't find anything that I really liked in the shops, and I didn't really have a huge amount of confidence in the idea of making trousers for myself, but now I really feel like I can do it. Like, how much more difficult can they be than making pajama bottoms for my husband and like gathered dresses for my daughter? because essentially it's just a pair of elasticated trousers. So hopefully should be fairly straightforward, especially if I'm going to be making jeans. Like, how a pair of elasticated linen trousers can't be more difficult than making a pair of high-waisted jeans. So yes, I'm really looking forward to getting going with those as well. So last two things on my making plans for spring are a couple of dresses. These are also going to be like stretch goals. I know that I've got quite a lot of things planned already, and these are things that are probably going to benefit me more into like the later part of spring and into summer than sort of now when we're in the sort of chilly bits of like early March. But I would like to make two dresses, and I already have fabrics ready to go for them. So first up, I have this red gingham in this kind of lovely like burgundy wine colour. I absolutely love this. Again, this was from Beehive Fabrics. It's a wonderful like lightweight cotton, and I'm just so excited to get going with making it into something that I can wear. And I initially was going to make the Lavender dress, which is by a designer called Easy Sew, I think. And it's essentially just like a square necked sort of flat bodice, spaghetti strap, gathered dress, which is sort of like fitted on the bodice but not massively fitted, and then it's just like a gathered oversized skirt. And I really love the look of this dress, and I've seen it pop up a lot on like my Pinterest, on my Instagram, just like this style of dress. But I have actually just had a thought that I saw Janelle of Rosary Apparel do a pattern hack of her Hazel dress pattern, and I made a couple of Hazel dresses last year, so I already have the pattern and the pattern pieces cut out. And so I think what I might do is, instead of purchasing another pattern with a very similar look to a dress that I already have the pattern for, is I'm going to use the video that Janelle put out on her Instagram of her pattern hack for this dress, and I'm going to make that and just alter the pattern pieces that I already have, because I feel like that's going to be more economical than buying another pattern. And also I think, because I already know that the Hazel dress fits me well, I think altering that is going to be sort of more of like a safe option than buying something else. So yes, I'm going to alter the Hazel pattern to turn this into sort of a less fitted, sort of shorter bodiced dress, and I'm going to use up this beautiful red gingham for that. And I think it's going to be a really lovely dress. I think it's going to be great for layering as well, like if you chuck a t-shirt or like a long sleeve top underneath it, or you can just throw a jumper over the top. I think it's going to be a really good addition to my wardrobe. So carrying on with the theme of making patterns by Janelle of Rosary Apparel, I have been lusting after her Pansy Dress pattern for ages, and I have finally found a fabric that I really want to make it in, and it's this, again with the gingham. It's this like beautiful green sort of larger checked gingham, and I think this is going to be absolutely lovely in a pansy dress. So I'm going to make a midi version, and I just really love the like puff sleeves and the high neck and the little tie at the back. I just think it's a really lovely classic look, and I think it's going to be something that I get a lot of wear out of. I like things to be like big and floaty in the summer because I don't like a lot of fabric touching me. I like to be able to move around really easily. And I made a couple of, like I say, Hazel dresses last summer, and I wore them a lot, but I mostly wore them with t-shirts underneath them. And it was mostly the length that I loved the most out of them, and the fact that they had pockets. And so I want to make this into a midi length version so that I have that like freedom of movement and bending down and everything, because we do a lot of like park visits and stuff and walking the dog in the summer, so I need to be able to kind of wear things that I'm not worrying about like accidentally flashing my bum in if I have to bend down and like sort out the dog or do something for my daughter and things like that. So yes, and pockets are a must for me. Everything must have pockets. I just constantly have things that I need to put in my pockets, whether it be my phone or like snacks for my daughter or just various bits and bobs that she's handing to me. I just really like to have pockets, and I love that all of Janelle's patterns have pockets. So those are all of my spring plans for this year. There are a lot of them. Some of them are stretch goals. Some of them will probably end up bleeding into summer. But I do really feel like I've kind of set myself up well to be able to get through the majority of these by already swatching for some things and also by like pre-purchasing my yarn. And I think I've got a better mix between sewing projects and knitting projects. So hopefully, because obviously the sewing projects are a little bit quicker and a lot of the knitting projects that I've got are really engaging, hopefully it'll kind of keep me on track to get these things done in spring. But I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself. I really want to kind of like just enjoy making them, and to be honest, if they get done, they get done. If they don't, they don't. And yeah, essentially what I'm saying is these are the things I plan to make, and if I don't actually get round to all of them, then that's fine. I'm not gonna like beat myself up about it. But yes, those are all of my plans. Now, I would love to hear what you guys have got planned for the upcoming season, whether it be for autumn if you're in the southern hemisphere, or spring if you're in the northern hemisphere. I absolutely love like planning my projects, and I really like to hear what other people have got planned for their making as well. So yes, that is everything from me. If this is the first of my videos that you are seeing and you are not subscribed already, please do consider subscribing if you want to catch up with me and sort of see how I get on making all of these things throughout the next couple of months. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. I really appreciate it. It helps these videos get out to more like-minded crafters like us. And yeah, if you want to kind of catch up with me between videos, I'll put my Instagram handle up here somewhere, and also you can find me on Ravelry. I'll put that up here as well. And yeah, I will catch up with you all in the next podcast episode. Happy making!